Yes.
Come again?
Yes. Yes.
I don't know what that was.
You don't need to worry
I
about
should have continued to eat my curry.
Yeah, but we wouldn't have so much fun without you.
Oh, wow, okay.
We'd be incomplete without you. It's
just for recording.
Hot banana stud.
Yeah. So today is July the 19th, although technically I think when this is uploaded, it'll be like a few days after. So I can officially make 2 Father Ted references. So
what?
I see.
July the 19th. On this
Oh.
day, Galway liberated from Indians, Marathon becomes Snickers, and the Ice Age ends. The other one...
You know what else ended?
Go on.
Me!
Sorry, folks. Peter has been cancelled. He's off the show.
Oh, Peter's been cancelled? What'd he do?
He mentioned Fortnite too much, so we're just going to make this a completely clean, professional podcast where we're not going to have any talks about that shite anymore.
Typical cancel culture.
So the only other Father Ted reference I can think of is from that episode where Jack declares, "I like cake." You ever see that meme where like they cut things open and it's revealed to be a cake?
Yes, like the dog.
Yeah, that one freaked me out. I think my favorite of them so far is the existential one where it's just a guy in his room and he just looks at standard stuff like a remote or maybe just a tin, and like when he crushes it, it cuts to his reaction, and then it's him like holding a tin but it's covered in cake, and you're just like, oh no, this is too much. I think if I was a cake, I'd be just a standard milk chocolate one. It's just, you cut it, not much effort, it's fine.
Is Peter really gone?
I mean, section's empty, so who knows? Maybe our bad karma just kicked him out.
I am karma. What do you mean?
Is that your stripper name? Was
No
that too
comment.
forward?
That was a no comment situation.
Peter, if you were a cake, what do you think it would be? What flavor?
Red velvet simple. Red velvet simple.
Salted caramel cheesecake.
Choice.
My favorite.
Absolutely.
No.
Go on. Go ahead. Was it ginger nut?
No, I was gonna say gingerbread.
I have found a new favorite meme.
Go on.
It is pretty much us three. I have put it into the group chat.
Wow.
It's the one
Can
of
you
the
tell
wolves.
us which one's which?
The middle one is Michael because it's Peter on the right just talking smack about Assassin's Creed, and then there's me on the left just mocking his infatuation with Hideo Kojima.
I was thinking more it's Mark in the middle, and then the two at the side is me and Peter just making random musical lyric references.
100%. I agree with both of those statements.
Who knows? Like, we need segues just to get into, each of the individual sections. So, they have their place. Although, I can definitely pull that expression sometimes.
That's the third person. They have their place on this show.
Right. And let's see, Peter, if you were the angry wolf in the middle, what would we be doing to upset you?
Probably that's me in the middle sleeping whilst the two of you are blabbing about Star Wars.
Mark doesn't blab about Star Wars much now. Give him that.
That is fair. I think I left that behind.
You're getting delving in deep to a game that I have no clue about, and you're just having to educate me on it. So in a way, this show is basically 2 experts and an idiot.
Can we rename?
Sure, we'll give it a new intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talking Crap About, the only film and video game podcast run and approved by 2 geniuses and 1 idiot. Whoever that idiot is still up for debate.
No, we already know who that is, and it's me. You're welcome.
That is Peter on this end of the Skype call. On the other end, it's Michael.
They can't
Oh, the silences are killing me. And also, I'm Mark, so I'm officially the ginger one. Unfortunately, my aunt, who I had a visit to recently, just confirmed I don't actually count, that it's the color's fading. So we can't name it a ginger podcast anymore.
For me, it was never a ginger podcast. For me, it was never a ginger podcast. It was always... I have no idea what I was going to say. I forgot. Or have I? Dun, dun, dun.
Michael, did you just get a haircut?
I'm joining Peter
He's joining me.
with the cap.
Can you please fix it though, because it's hurting me a little bit.
To differentiate me, I should just get a
hurting me
beanie.
too.
You should what?
I should probably get a beanie now, just to stand out. You know, just Aaron Paul style.
Exactly. Wagwan.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
how's everyone doing today?
Horrible. Oh no, I'm fine.
I have had a long day at work.
Who were you working today?
I was. Why is Sunday like the retail day of the week? Isn't Sunday a day of rest?
Retail's like major shops only run 1 to 6 unless it gets mad busy for some reason. But which is weird because like most of the places I've been into, or even at my own work, Sunday's usually meant to be the quiet day.
Yeah, it isn't in Belfast. Jesus, constant. In the 4 hours that I was in today, we did more than a standard like 12-hour or an 8-hour day.
Wow.
It's probably just massive attention recently, just due to the week and circumstances and stuff like that.
Oh no, it's always like that. They just don't like me.
Well, that's normal customers for you. They just
Or maybe
don't
it's
really
just
care.
the complete opposite, and they actually love you, and they
just-
just wanted to come in on the day that they knew you were going to be working.
See my beaming face.
Exactly.
That's why I moved. Well, okay, technically not permanently, but I'm actually recording this down south in Cork. This
Oh, c'est
friend-
macaque!
Yes. Real capital by. Honestly, just the change of scenery, I think, has done me a world of good right now, because obviously we're not going out much to the city or stuff like that, but we're in the countryside. We've got plenty of room for exercise, to see some sights, and reconnecting with a lot of the family has also just been nice as well. Just having any small bit of conversation, I think, has done us a world of good right now. And obviously we're still doing our best to respect social distancing and stuff like that. There have been more announcements on the news of stuff being delayed for phase 4, which I understand, because like the moment they announced things could go back to normal and they said, but you should respect guidelines. Nah, we didn't respect those guidelines.
No, of course not.
I'd like things to go back to normal as much as the next person, but also I've gotten to this stage where I'm like, we can't rush this. Like, I'd love to go to QCon or JCon or any of the other ones, but at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, I ain't being stuck in one confined room with 20 to 30 other people. And like, that
See,
was
this
the
is
thing.
where I know that I'm definitely the idiot, because you keep saying QCon and JCon, and the first thing that comes into my head is, what do those letters mean? I know con is convention, but what is the letter in front of it?
Q
Well-
is Queens, right?
Yeah, that's where that one takes place. JCon, that's the one in Dublin and Croke Park. I think that's more just general term for Japanese event, because compared to usual conventions, I think it's more focused on the actual culture and country behind it, so they focus more on that kind of stuff.
Right. So basically, what I'm hearing then is that I'm asking idiot questions, but it's also educational, because then you educate me. So this is an educational program. You're welcome.
With swearing.
With swearing, because
Alright, make
what
your
else
fucking
would
language.
Yeah,
Watch your
have a
fucking
clusterfuck of a
mouth.
situation in their hands now.
Yeah, so really, I think having this time to myself has also just let me work through a lot of the stuff I've had, not just here, but also just around the house as well. So I've been dealing with a lot of the storage stuff I have around the house, and it means I've had a chance to reread or finish some series I've had on in the background that I've been meaning to wrap up for years. So I recently finished the manga of Bleach and Dragon Ball. Being a Dragon Ball fan, like, for years, it was such a surprise I never actually touched the original manga, and it's still really good. And being of that particular style so many years ago, it definitely has its charm to it, but at the same time, you also very much see how there's a lot of series nowadays that would take that foundation that it sort of set up and did slowly evolve on it. In particular, reading the Boo Saga, you really get this sense of the series was meant to end with Cell, because the whole idea of passing the torch to the next generation just out. And you're just like, is Gohan hero? Nah, he's not. We need Goku back. And they confuse now. And here's Super Saiyan 3. And even though it's not 100% completely relevant, it's just, we just need it. Stuff like that.
Yeah, fair. That was great.
Isn't Dragon Ball just filler anyway?
Here, don't go there. There can be some good filler. It just varies.
Yeah, like Botox.
Stop.
Wow. However, I will admit, there's a lot of great songs that are being released at the minute. Like Kygo, the DJ Kygo keeps releasing old songs, but revamped, if that makes sense.
Remixed.
Revamped? Oh yeah, so am I. So, Michael Smith said I did that.
I'm sorry, everyone in the country has just decided to come into the house at the exact moment for drinks.
That's Cork for you.
Hi!
Never get that stuff in Dublin.
Ugh, when I said close the doors, what did that mean?
Cork, yeah. Actually,
You see, so there's for Kygo, by the way, quick side note.
Kygo by
Kygo,
Toyota.
did I need that?
Yes.
Okay. But he did Higher Love with Whitney Houston and stuff, even though it was basically an old sound sample and stuff like that. So he's done that, and he's got a new one out with Tina Turner, and he's basically like revamped What's Love Got to Do with It as well. So I'm liking what he's doing. Huh?
What is love?
Baby, don't hurt me.
Don't hurt me.
No more.
I've just gone completely silent for this last few minutes because I'm thinking to myself, this is fine, and then everything hits at once.
It's the
That's
dog in
the
burning
majority. That's the majority of the conversations that you and Michael have, and then I'm like, wait.
Hold up. Have you heard
Yeah.
Juice WRLD's new album?
I think I've heard bits of it, just not the full album itself. And
Postmortem.
it's a shame. And like the thing is, with most albums, I don't think I have a particular favorite. It's more that I always like skim through like particular favorites I have, and like that's usually enough for me. Like I think the one exception I have for myself is Hybrid Theory from Linkin Park. That's like one of my favorite albums ever.
Pretty emo.
We had that phase. Like, remember, this was early 2000s AMV time. Just nothing but Dragon Ball Z and Naruto in the end.
In the end, yeah.
Hook that shit in my
Final
veins.
Fantasy 7, Vincent Valentine. I'm getting too in depth, aren't I?
Yes, you really are. Y'all getting into this real deep, real quick.
We need a new topic. This is Binge Report. It's not going to quiet down. They're going to keep talking, and the dog is going to keep barking.
We can hear it.
Maybe I'm just suffering on my end. Maybe I'm just trapped in this perpetual loop of trying to sound original when I'm not.
Fun fact, Mark is in Cork, and the grip tip on my hurl is Cork.
Hey,
And I have
yeah.
a cork right here.
Cork for his wine bottle.
Exactly, because why not? Am I right?
Close enough. I think one of the main things I've had since I'm down here is me and my uncle have just been spending so many evenings just sitting down and watching stuff on Netflix. So it's mainly been a mixture of a lot of Coen Brothers movies. So we've seen the likes of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Ballad of Buster Scruggs. We're planning on doing Big Lebowski later on. So we're looking forward to that. The thing is, like, we've got very different tastes in terms of films, but like, we're always just going to sit down and chat about them. Like, I remember when I came here when I was 15, and no context, he just sat me down. We watched Aliens. Fucking best time of my life.
You over me, Ian? That Aliens?
Yes, that Aliens with that quote and some of the worst games that ever came out.
R.I.P.
So the main thing I watched recently was Brand New Animal. This is up on Netflix, and this is the most recent anime from Studio Trigger. These are the guys who've done the likes of Kill la Kill, Darling in the Franxx, and most recently, I think their last major film was Promar, which I sadly didn't get to see in cinemas. Like, I remember looking on Instagram at the time, and sort of all my usual people I follow, cosplayers and artists, they were all showing images of them just at the premiere and stuff like that. And I was at the Ulster University car park holding a boom mic going, yep, this is my course. I could be out watching it, but nah, I'm here.
I'm making.
In this world, you've got humans and then there are beastmen. People have the ability to transform into any sort of like monster of their choosing. And then we have our main girl, Mitsuru, who has just out of nowhere transformed into a beastman, because usually it's something you're born as and not something you become. And she leaves her family and home to go to Anima City. It's essentially a large gathering place for people of that particular species. The thing is with this show, and I have this with a lot of Trigger stuff, is that it is very Looney Tunes-esque, not just in its look, but also just how wacky some of the concepts get, because it's very episodic. Like, there is technically an ongoing story throughout, but you know, you have in one episode, this is us going to the party, and then let's start a baseball team.
That sounded very Tokyo Ghoul at the start there, with turning into something.
There can be shades of that as well. In fact, a lot of the visual style can be seen to take a much lighter tone to something like Tokyo Ghoul, because it's wrapped in a lot of pink, blue, and purple neons, and for the most part, it looks pretty cute, although there are definitely times in a few episodes you can tell the animation gets very limited, like it is still frames, but are having to move around. It's not the most inconsistent, but I think when you look at so much of it as a whole product, you can definitely see some of the rougher edges. And I think one of the big problems I have with it so far is that I feel like it's trying to bite off a little bit too much, or doing more than what it can, because I think in the last few years, Trigger have been trying to be a bit more grown up with their stuff. Like, they've been trying to tackle subject matter that is a bit more mature, or at least as mature as you can get with this kind of subject matter. But it always feels like they're afraid to take that actual step to really dig into stuff like that, because there is like the undercurrent of racism, obviously, but it never really delves beyond the surface level. Beastmen are bad because humans say so, or vice versa, and stuff like that. And it's a shame, because I feel like they do want to step out of their comfort zone and try new things, but it never feels like they actively try to push that, if you know what I mean.
What is this program actually called again, Mark?
Brand New Animal. The thing outside of that, though, is that it is still like, for the most part, a light, fun time. The music and in the intro and outros, like, excellent as always from Trigger. But I also think it's that I think I've slowly gotten a bit more used to their work, because when they first came out in 2013, like, there were all these people who came from Gainax and stuff that had made probably one of my favorite series ever, Gurren Lagann, and following up stuff like that has been very much their ideal standard. And at first it was really cool, even though I wasn't even into some of their stuff like Kill la Kill. I was like, you know what, it's different and it's like doing real experimental stuff. Like, I can at least appreciate it for that. But in the last few years, while they've put out stuff that is, like, for the most part pretty good, although like Darling in the Franxx I thought was really lackluster, there is a potential for them to improve, and they do want to try bigger, more expansive things, but it still feels like they're trapped in this idea of, we're the wild, wacky studio of anime out there. We can do this kind of stuff. You know, we can be this silly, but they're just like, but that's us. That's what we do.
Yeah, every time you said Beastmen, I kept thinking about Gurren Lagann. Because the first arc was when they were fighting the Beastmen.
Yeah. Also, I probably have not set up this good precedence of me not being the furry on this show, because I mentioned Animal Crossing in the first episode along with Beastars. I think this is all just sort of piled onto me at once. So
don't forget about She-Ra.
Yeah.
Oh no, I am the furry of this show.
I mean,
everybody's got their kink.
All right. But all right, look, putting the joke things aside, like, it's probably my fault for having said all those and giving the impression I'm not, furry. But you know what? You only live once. I mean, if someone gets if someone gets confidence, from dressing up in a large fursuit, I mean, if they're not doing anything wrong, like, good on them. Like, it helps them socially and stuff like that. And
exactly, yeah.
So, and look, I say this because, like, the handful I've met at conventions, I was like, sure, like, we all have our interests and stuff, but like, I if you get something out of this, if it helps you be more confident and stuff like that, and you're not doing anything wrong, sure, do you. I mean, I just say that because there's always that weird undercurrent, but like, that's in every single fandom in every part of the internet. Like, they had that thing for Hazbin Hotel recently. They did that music video called Addict, and you know what? I think in isolation, I liked it, but at the same time, I was like, there's going to be a whole lot of weird fan art from this. I just know it.
Well, I mean, there might be fan art, but it already is a situation where they are really very intimate with one another anyway.
What the hell are we talking about? Could I have drank before I got here?
I just assume we're always drinking.
You see, why do you think that we talked about corks? My wine bottle is here, even though I don't like wine.
Gin?
Oh, gin is obviously here, but tequila is not my thing at the minute.
Oh, I don't like tequila. I hate tequila.
Okay, choice.
It is a choice. I don't like tequila.
Okay, that's fine. It is a choice. I can't say it's the correct one, but it is a choice either.
Is there really a correct choice when it comes to drinking?
Not to drink?
No, that's the worst choice ever. Come on. Bing sucks. I'm going to Google.
I don't know what's going on. We jumped from Practical Animal to furries to Addict to Bing.
Michael's searching.
Michael, what have you watched? Please.
Absolutely nothing. I've been working nonstop. I have seen Hamilton maybe 20 times at this point.
As you do.
Wow. Addict. I don't know anything about this, by the way. So you like know this better than I do. I only found out about it last night. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know much about it. I only know that it's part of the Has Been Hotel. There was a pilot episode of it, and then they made a music video of it, and that was it.
Yeah, I think that's all the bare essentials you need for it, I think, at least, coming from the outside perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Trigger is going to do the Cyberpunk show for Netflix in 2022.
Oh, is that the one done by CG, the Witcher people?
Yeah, CD Projekt Red. They're doing like a tie-in thing. What year is this? 2020. They're doing a tie-in. Yeah, who knows?
Here's the thing. Those are like the ideal sort of people, I think, for that specific setup and stuff like that. I mean, when you think of like certain studios, you can associate them with certain things. Like if you would think of something like Ufotable, they do the likes of Fate and more recently Demon Slayer. They're very super polished, aesthetically pleasing shows. And I think like they're ideal for that kind of stuff.
Hey, Mark, did you know this? They helped with Steven Universe.
Huh.
They did production assistance on season 4, episode 4.
Actually, that kind of makes sense because like the ending credits of that show have a very Steven Universe-esque look to it, with the shapes and stuff like that.
I love Wikipedia.
Wow.
Ever changing. So
the fact that we were taught not to get our sources from Wikipedia because it's not a reliable search engine.
Now, you see, if you go down to the bottom of any Wikipedia page, you'll see where it says references, and everything is referenced.
Yeah, but also realize that anyone can change that and add their own sentence or two.
Oh, well, as long as it's referenced, then I can double check the references.
There could be a Wikipedia
did you double check that reference there before you Wikipedia?
I just did. It went back to Crunchyroll. Peter, don't come for me.
There could be a Wikipedia page for us. It could make Peter the boss, and us just two scrubs.
Wait, Peter isn't the boss?
He never was.
An idiot, but I am a boss.
I'm a bit. I'm a boss.
All right. So, Peter, you watched the new Has Been Hotel music video Addiction, or I think it's called Addict, I think.
Oh, I watched it and I thought it was very Powerpuff Girl-esque. The animation style felt very I don't know how to describe it because it reminded me of Powerpuff Girls, but not quite as bubbly, if that makes sense. It was kind of more gritty. It kind of had like I don't know how to describe it.
I'd say slightly more colorful edge to it, I think, than Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, very much so. But the music video was fairly good. I thought that and if we're going to look at it from I can look at this from multiple different ways. If we're going to look at it based on the visual aesthetic of it, it looks very visually pleasing. It kind of reminds me of the same relationship that Joker and Harley Quinn has with the two main characters in the music video. The way that their relationship kind of works, it kind of reminded me of that. But if we're going to talk about the music standpoint, the music itself was good. Like, I enjoyed listening to it, but there were certain parts that I thought that could have been retouched before you finally published it, because it did sound like as if it wasn't quite hitting the mark that I was expecting it to hit if it done so successfully for its pilot.
I'm going to be honest, Has Been Hotel's pilot was also something I was very inconsistent on, because in many respects, I think it's really amazing that like this 30-minute pilot was able to really succeed and get mainstream attention on YouTube, especially when so much of the market for it nowadays, animation-wise on that platform, is the storytime animations. Your stuff like Jane Animations, Domix, and stuff like that. And that isn't an offense against them. I think that's a lot of the content I would watch on YouTube outside of video essays and stuff like that. But it's also, when you're watching Has Been, you get the sense that, like, there's a lot of people on this who are really talented, and then there was others who were just called in just to finish in a few extra lines and stuff like that. And I think the best compliment I can give this new music video is that having this shorter runtime, I think, meant it was much more consistent overall. Like, the editing and direction of it, I felt was a lot tighter, more well put together. And also, just in terms of visual storytelling as well, I think it did a much better job of communicating more about certain characters and stuff. And this comes from someone who was really not that into the original short. I thought, you know, for what it was worth, I thought it was okay. Mm-hmm. I can understand why some people are into it, but it's just something that never really clicked with me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm glad it exists. I'm glad that, you know, some people are getting stuff out of it. And I think overall I got much better impression from this than the pilot, because I think the shorter runtime does much better for conveying all the sort of storytelling or messages in it.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Michael.
This is me with Star Wars. But
no, I think we need one subject matter for, you know, us to be completely clueless.
Well, then we'll leave that. But I was watching this. It's on Netflix, and one of my friends recommended it for me because she thought I'd find it really funny, and it is actually surprisingly funny. It's called Chewing Gum.
I've not heard of this.
But basically, Chewing Gum is about an English girl. She's black. She's a black family, very traditional in their ways and the way that they view things, highly religious. But this girl is essentially wanting to lose her virginity. Okay. And it's all about her going out of her way to try her best to do it. But she just keeps hitting obstacle and obstacle and obstacle. And I don't know what it is, but it's got like that kind of like, it breaks the fourth wall all the time. So you do feel like as if you're kind of connecting with her. And it just, I don't know what it is, but it has like that kind of like lovability about it where like, it's very good just to put on and leave in the background. But then also if you sat down and you invested your time in it, it doesn't take long to go through it. But it's also like surprisingly entertaining to watch. And I don't know what it is, but it has like a very unique quality that allows you to be able to watch it without necessarily caring, but then also watch it and actually get invested. It's kind of like a mix between sex education mixed with, I don't even know how to describe it.
And is this one of those like handheld, more like mockumentary style sitcoms, or is it just?
No, it's kind of, I don't even, this is what I'm saying. It's a very unique like concept to like watch, because it's very much, it's always through the eyes of the main girl herself. And then it kind of has like wee moments where it flashes to her sister or her boyfriend or something like that there. But it mainly focuses on the main girl herself and what she does and things. It's not really explicit, but it's just like what she would go to get what she wants to get. Like a prime example of it is that she really badly wants to, and she thinks that potentially adding a third into the mix would allow that for easier access. But it just turns into it's not good. You know?
My stars guard.
So it takes a situation that could be bad and then makes it infinitely worse as it goes along.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to stop it. I don't want to reveal too much, but it's there's like an episode where she wants to like add in a third to try and make it spicy for her and her boyfriend, and she thinks that getting her own private room would have been great. But she doesn't have a lot of money, so she gets the cheapest one in her local area. And it turns out it's like the back of a butcher house where they've just put a mattress down that people have also used in the past for practically the same thing. And you can tell that from the episode. It's extremely messy. You can't help but keep watching. It's like watching a car crash, but in the best way possible, which sounds horrible, but it's also, I haven't finished it. But it's still great.
No, because
I've seen a clip of this show. I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like it was either Channel 4 or BBC's like Facebook page. They always promoted this how to get a date in 30 seconds thing.
Yes.
And she's like, the woman was like, call my phone. The guy's calling her. She goes, thank you. Why still calling me for? He's like, oh.
But yeah, it was on All 4 or Channel 4 or whatever it is. But now the first 2 seasons are on Netflix as well. So that is what I have mainly been watching, along with reruns of like Rick and Morty and stuff. But it's mainly just been like filler time whilst I've just been like trying to keep myself occupied and not bored while still on like in furlough and lockdown. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. And how many seasons are there of this?
There's 2 seasons of this on Netflix. Now, be warned, if you go into it, you're gonna be, if you're not like well versed and like understand what the hell could potentially happen in the world, you're gonna go in and be quite shocked and potentially want to turn it off. But if you kind of like have an understanding that kind of stuff happens regularly, then you can kind of find the humor in it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like shock value, but not like Shane Dawson level. Do you know what I mean?
Can you please elaborate?
Hey,
Mark, you may want to mute us for a second here.
you don't need to, but if you want to, that's fine. Basically, the sister goes online to a chat room, right?
Right.
And essentially what happens is that there's this old man, and she immediately is just like, whip it out, right?
Okay.
And she's like, okay, and then she isn't getting what she's wanting from it. She isn't doing anything, she just wants to see it. And then she isn't getting what she's wanting from it, so she's ready to close it down. And he starts crying and says, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And he like sways her to like stay on the chat. And then it goes back to the main girl, and then it comes back to her. And it's like, oh, I'm going to kill myself. And then it shows you him actually attempting to. And she's like, I need to go, bye-bye. And then he's like, no, don't go, please stay. I want to hear you. Like, if you're uncomfortable, why don't you just get naked too? And it then turns to a very weird situation. You're like, what the hell's happening right now? And then I soon twigged, and I was like, I can almost guarantee that it's probably that fetish where you get choked out and then that allows you to get there. So basically, so he starts hanging himself and then starts going for it while she's watching. And it's just a shit show. It's just a shit show. And it's great.
What did they put on television?
It was funny.
If Big Bang Theory can get on television, anything is possible.
Exactly. If you already knew about that, because I already knew about that, if you can look at that from a funny side and a funny perspective, me explaining that won't sound funny, but watching it would be. If you're able to find that type of humor. But then the thing is, I've got a very dark and twisted mind in regards to humor. Like, things that shouldn't be funny, I find funny, and we're not going to get into it, but I guess that's fine.
I think we're going to need a palate cleanser to clean this up. So This is Checkpoint Quest. Yeah, I'm going to be honest, this has been a bit of a slow week for new releases and stuff like that. It's also just been a bit weird for a lot of us because, you know, I'm out in a different location. There's just different stuff going on. So I think recording this has just been a bit hectic and I think hard to really find a sort of comfortable groove yet, I think.
Yeah.
And then again, I just think this varies from episode to episode sometimes, I think. So practice makes perfect.
Yeah. This week for Checkpoint Quest, though, I will admit, I have actually played quite a few older games, but replayed them. So first of all, before we continue, I finished The Last of Us 2.
Ah, excellent.
You can agree or disagree with me all you want.
Sure, like me and Michael did most of the talking last time, so you go ahead, give everything you want.
Okay. Personally, I don't think Abby's need to be in that game. Like, she doesn't need to be there. Personal opinion, she didn't need to be there.
Go on.
Okay.
The only reason why I say that is because why was there a need to try and you gave us this inner turmoil of like, oh, someone, are we allowed to say spoilers now that it's been out?
Sure, go ahead.
It's been like a month.
Okay, exactly. Abby had killed Joel, and then you went out on this personal vendetta to kill Abby, basically. But then whenever you get to the point, whenever you're just about to kill Abby, it flips the script and then you play as Abby and see her perspective, the carnage, what happened that Ellie was doing, whilst you now play as Abby, right? But my confusion is, why do they feel the need to, similar to the point I made the last time, why do they feel to make her hyper masculine. Now, I don't care about the fact that she is masculine, because that's totally fine. You can have, like, I know that there is women out there that are burlier than me and can beat me the fuck up, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
But
I'll make this as a point as well. There's so many times in that early section with Abby, they point out in the narrative and in the environment that, like, she's built herself as a soldier for vengeance against Joel, but also just so far into that lifestyle, like, it's actively worked into her character. Like, if you want a bad example of how that could work, look at On from Persona 5. This is a thing I have with a lot of Atlas games as well, where they say they want to tackle sensitive issue, where they say, we're going to have this character who's been, like, abused or something like that reclaim her identity, you know, because of this. But we need to sell figurines. So slap her into, you know, whatever the Phantom Thieves are wearing or stuff like that, because she's so determined to prove about, you know, your guy abusing a lot of people physically and sexually, and then coincidentally everyone afterwards is still romanticizing her for some reason. Like, it's that contrast that really got under my nerves, and Abby doesn't fall into that trap for me. So
but you see, this is the thing as well. I just think I can understand the game premise, as in Abby's community is so much larger than Ellie's, and that's okay, which means that gives her comfortability to be able to work out and do whatever the hell she wants to do. But then again, if you're really going to look at it, and if they were really going to be clever and not, like, piss people off and do whatever the hell that they wanted to do, you need to come at it from a genuine post-apocalyptic standpoint. If you're going to have a bigger group, you're going to have more mouths. You're not going to have as much food because you're living in the center of a city. How are you getting those rabbits that were in the canteen that filled up that entire center table? That would not have happened. You know what I mean? Like, you would be limited with your resources, especially in a city where there's two other factions that you have to fight against.
Your issue isn't with Abby as a character.
Because personally, I preferred Abby's storyline over Ellie's.
I did.
My problem with it, yeah, exactly. My problem with it is she felt unnecessary in regards to her why. Yeah, like, how is she the way that she is without, like, that? It just doesn't make sense to me. Why, like, right? If you're gonna take Ellie's situation. Ellie was, in the first game, she was obviously slender, but she also had, like, quite a round face, quite, like, she was still quite childlike, obviously. But then as you grew up, and in a world like that, it would keep you very small and lean. But for Abby, somehow, miraculously, she somehow beefed up. Like, in a world where you'd need to have, like, once again, I understand the level that you need to be able, but the way that she would have had to have been eaten would have needed to be enough for, like, an actual bodybuilder for her to get to that level, because she is a burly woman.
I have a point for this. Oh wow, okay. I can hear myself.
That happens with Skype sometimes.
Abby's storyline, I enjoyed it immensely, because I enjoyed with you needing to lead the kids away and stuff like that there. But it also that sounded very weird. But like you essentially lead kids to a safe zone.
Also very weird.
You know what? It's what happened, so I can't say anything else. Also because I forgot their names.
Lev and Yara.
There we go. Thank you. You need to lead Lev and Yara to safety because their own faction's coming for them. Because
Lev is
own issues and stuff like that, which is fine. But I don't understand why they felt the need for Abby to be burly, because then that means that you're basically giving female the same attributes as Joel did in the first game. Like, he lifted up the fences for Ellie to go under. He did whatever he needed to. He pushed the gates. He helped push stuff over and blockade doors. Like, that was fine. But if you're going to be putting a burlier character in like that, you need to also give her something that Ellie can't do. Because Ellie was able to do it, everything that Abby was able to do, but what? There was no difference. It was literally you're playing the same character, but there was a different character build.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
I'm going to be honest, and I thought about this back and forth for a while. I think I've actually come to like Abby's section a lot more, because the intentional contrast between the two is Ellie has to be stealthy in so much of her encounters, and then with Abby, for the most part, you could actually go guns blazing, and there was sections where despite my initial grievance, I think I got really invested in. Like, for instance, the best fight in the game is her section in the hospital with the Rat King. I loved that section so much.
Scared me. That's why.
Because it's one of those bosses where you're looking at it just like, this is probably going to have multiple phases or something, and then it actually happens, and it's made up of like multiple infected stitched together, and when the fight goes on, it breaks down and then splits into like smaller ones that also go in for attacks.
Yeah.
Locks you into confined areas. I loved that, and I think more of my problems with Abby's section, I think, comes from how they want to have similarities between the two. For the most part, is there, but there's also times where you feel like that sometimes it doesn't cross over as much. Like, at no point, I think, does Ellie ever have to deal with the island, I don't think. And it's one of those sections where you're just like, this feels very much its own isolated bit. And I think there's also that contrast of how much you really want to push with that, because there's two bits which are very similar to each other, but they repeat that idea of switching perspectives. The first is when you eventually get back to the cinema, but you're doing it through Abby's perspective. And it gives you this Arkham Knight-esque boss fight where you have to essentially track down the other player character that, you know, you were previously doing beforehand, and you have to fight them. For one, I felt like that bit was so much more grounded as well, because, well, I did not like the idea I had to hurt Ellie for this to proceed, but I knew I couldn't push beyond that point. And then when it got to the reverse, this was the ending at the beach. God.
Yeah. I stood still for about 20 minutes when they made me fight Ellie. I was like, no, Ellie, I'm over here. Come on.
Yeah. But generally, I think I've given my grievances on that game, but when you had to switch and you fought Abby one last time and they just asked you to keep hitting square, there is obviously but there was a point where you were like, you only have to hit it a certain amount of times for it to trigger the cutscene.
Do you understand the level though? Abby looked like the character that I would have expected her to on the beach at the end.
Oh, a bit more sort of scrawny and emaciated.
You see, I'm not taking this from like a game standpoint. I'm taking this from a realistic standpoint, and that's probably not the point that you should be looking at. But it threw me out of the experience because
you've got it through. I mean, the only thing I can say about Last of Us 2 at this stage is, after all this, you know, it's been a month of just a constant circle of hatreds from so many different points of view, and it's specifically a game about vengeance and what that does to a person.
Yeah.
I think I've come out of it thinking, this could have been one of my favorite games of all time. This has the potential there. All the pieces, if moved around, I think could have led to something amazing. What is there, I think, deserves praise. But I'm also curious to see what this game is going to be in a few years' time, because more than likely, this will probably get a remaster with PlayStation 5 sometime in the future. And I'm going to replay it definitely when that happens. And I'm curious to see what my thoughts on it will be, because I think coming into this in the future with a fresh perspective, I'm curious to see if that will change my perspective. Maybe I'll get softer on it. Maybe I'll be more critical against it. I just think the best thing Last of Us 2 can do right now is that I think it's a game people need to experience, but also with a pinch of salt. So that's it. It's all done. We're never touching it again, at least till, you know,
until
maybe
next week.
Yeah.
Until next time.
All right. I needed something to clean the slate for me to just get my mind off it. So I have had this game on the back burner for a while now, because of just responsibilities and stuff like that. But having a 4-hour drive down to Cork just gave me an excuse to start playing again. So I have been playing Fire Emblem Three Houses. This is my first experience with this series on Switch. It's technically top-down, grid-based battler where you're essentially controlling your units to fight against different sorts of enemies. And I am not doing a good job of selling this game, because in many ways, I think it's a double-edged sword, because you can have your battles which take place on these environments where they look pretty shit. Like, you can see they're like stretched out and kind of ugly looking. and there's a lot of slowdown with the characters, movements, and stuff like that. But at the same time, I put up with that because I am so engaged with it a lot of the time. Because for a game that has such a large cast of characters, it does a really good job of just giving everyone at least some nugget of personality. Obviously, there are some who get more attention than others, and specifically when you first started up, you're having to pick between one of the three titular houses, and you have your sort of repeating archetypes with each. Like, you have your magicians, then you have your archers, your axe wielders, and stuff like that. And one of the things I like about its combat system is while there are the classes and their separations, it gives you the room to mold them in a way you want, because you play as a teacher who comes in, because instead of commanding units, you're commanding your class, and so you can change and mold them into whatever way you please with their setup. So it allows for more experimentation. To give my example of it, I'd done my playthrough as the Black Eagles, so my main trick for it is to have my character and then Edelgard as the aggressive tanks. So they've got their axes, swords, they're the ones who go in and do the damage, and then for backups, I would then have the magician sort of clear up the older, or the more weaker enemies at the back, and then have Beskar Bernadetta, who is the archer, to take out some of the smaller bunches at the front. And it's one of those systems where you get this really nice feeling, like every small sort of step you take with each individual character feels like you're actively inspiring them to make these decisions and stuff like that. And I think one of the things that make it works outside of the personalities is the support conversations you can have with them, because this game very much operates a lot like Persona in that there is a school setting that you do go to, and you can interact with so many of the characters outside of battle. And I think one of the big things it fixes for me, because I mentioned Persona 5 recently, and I'm currently playing for that as well, one of my big problems I always have with it is that I never get the sense these characters had a life outside of the cutscenes or interactions. Like, I knew their personalities, but the moment I turned it off, I was like, I don't think I actively know what these guys do in their spare time or stuff like that. For what Fire Emblem does, through the support conversations, you can have your different members of your class interact with other members and set them on tasks to better improve their skill level together. So if you want to do any group attacks, you can pair up certain characters who work really well with each other, and it creates just a really solid sense of progression. And throughout all of this, the story itself is intriguing enough. Like, it is your typical sort of fantasy setup, and I feel like the thing that's holding it back for me right now is that a lot of the villains are just okay. Like, they get the job done for what their role in the story is, but outside of that, they're just sort of there as bowling pins to be knocked down. And you know what? Might just be me. I'm currently at the halfway point. There's been a significant change in some of the characters' relationships, so I'm curious to see where that goes. I just think this is the kind of game where it's nice to have on in the background, you know, just as a pleasant distraction. It can get tactical. You can go into it more definitely if you want. Being new to all this, I've done it in casual modes. I think Classic have you lose members of your team, so like if they die in the battlefield, that's them gone. There's a permadeath system, and I think that's a solid reasoning for, you know, just going through on second playthroughs to experiment more. But at the same time, like, it hasn't been too difficult that it requires resets.
Yeah, it was last year, I think. I was in England for a film festival. My mate was playing it on his Switch. Looked very XCOM-esque, you know what I mean? Sign, maneuver your troops, and if they die, they die.
Yeah, so
horrible for me because I felt really bad.
As a starting point for that kind of subgenre, I think it's a nice enough place to start at. I do think there is some complaints to be had with the fact that visually it has some problems. Like, a lot of the environments you explore, especially in the battles themselves, because you are obviously looking at it from a bird's eye perspective with the grids and stuff, but you can zoom into your troops and take them around the field. I personally avoid it because, well, yes, it's nice to look at cinematically, but it just feels it's more of a bother to work around because you just can't really see as much. It also just highlights, like, a lot of the stuff in it just, it feels like textures get, like, stretched and dragged out and then sort of planted. It's not all bad. Like, generally, I love a lot of the character designs and their interactions with each other, but I think it's one of those aspects that depending on how far you want to really dig into it, you notice a lot of the inconsistencies. But I am really enjoying it, and having a longer period to play through it has made me come out really appreciating it a lot more, because I think at first it wasn't getting to me, but I just sort of like Red Dead 2 experience with it, in that having so much time to play with it and understand it, I think has made me come out appreciating it more.
Boy, I'm actually playing through Red Dead 2 again right now. Not right now, because I'm talking to you, but once this is all over, I'm going to go back.
I see it.
You see it?
And let's see, how far are you into it so far?
I have just gotten to the point where you have to rescue Micah from the jail in Strawberry.
Oh,
and
that's...
I don't want to do this, because I know what you do, you fucking pricking.
I think what's happening, because the furthest I've ever been to the first campsite.
Then I will say nothing.
I don't care.
Oh, no, you should. You should play it.
I just can't get into it. Like, I got it for Christmas, and it's literally like...
No, I had that with Red Dead 2. It just it grew on me more with time, because I had the room to experiment and just play with it, I think.
You're alright, boy. I mean, I have been doing chores in the camp. I have been chopping wood, feeding the horses, bringing the food to Pearson's tent. I've been doing the whole hog. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, and also, like, it's not essential to do some of the tasks in it, but there's points when you look at it and you're just like, I'm the only one pulling my weight around here, alright?
Yeah, there's a point whenever you're lifting the seeds to Pearson, and he turns to Arthur and goes, "Oh, it's good to see somebody's doing work around here." Arthur doesn't say anything, but you just know he wants to go, yeah, no.
I think the way the camp works a lot for me in that game is how well it gets implemented into certain sequences. Like, it's a long game in a lot of respects, and I think the section I spent the most at was when they get to the mansion. You know, they have that whole spot to themselves for a bit. And that was when I did like most of the side quests. I sort of just did the most exploring. And you first return back to the island after that whole big fiasco, and that particular song starts playing, and when you get back, it's completely empty. Like, I think that was one of the first times I think going into that place with such a significant change, I was like, this is hitting me, because I had so much time just to waste and spend around it that suddenly everyone being gone just hit so much harder.
Such a good game.
No, I
need to get into it now. Okay, we get it.
Yeah, you do.
I do want to get back into it at some stage, because I got up to finishing the main story, and I think after that I just kind of left it because I sunk in maybe 40, 50 hours into it, and I was like, all right, I think I need to try different things. But there's also times when you get so laser focused on one thing, a lot of other stuff just seems unappealing afterwards. Like, I remember for the first year of college, literally maybe the first term of college, all I played was Overwatch. Like, that was all I was into at first.
He was the Overwatch guy.
And the thing is, like, I haven't touched it since, and every time I try to get back into it, I'm just like, oh, there's so many changes. What do you mean you can't do this alt anymore?
I never got into it.
I don't know what that means.
I'm just ahead in this chat. There we are.
You see, the majority of my games are the second one to a two-parter thus far. Like, I have... I have Red Dead 2, The Last of Us 2, Shadow of Mordor, which is the second part to Middle-earth.
Well, no, Shadow of Mordor.
I don't think I finished that.
Dishonored 2, and then Watch Dogs 2 with the new trailer of Legion coming out this week.
All good games. Oh, no, it was already out. That's reminded me, actually. I've been playing Iron Man VR. Did I already talk about this?
Oh, no, we haven't. Please, go ahead.
I had. Oh, it's very immersive, which is also its biggest problem, in that, you know, like in the first movie when he's like, in 3, 2, 1, and you like easing the jets up.
Yeah.
You feel like you're doing that, and it's genuinely amazing being able to fly about and maneuver in between the city streets in the VR. The problem is the loading times are absolutely ridiculous.
The loading times are astronomical.
Two shots of vodka.
It's Kourtney Kardashian. She's just like, the noise is astronomical.
I did not know that. Do you think I would know something the Kardashians said, Peter?
Wow, of course I'm the one that knows it well.
And this being a VR game, is it more an on-rail shooter, or does it actively let you explore?
Oh no, you get to explore. Like, the few missions that I've done the Shield Helicarrier, Singapore, and just outside Tony Stark's home, and you just have free reign of the whole thing.
What's the whole thing?
Well, not like each mission has its own staging area, but you can fly about the whole city or the helicarrier or the house.
Right, and I'm assuming this is from first person.
Oh yeah. There's no like third-person cutscenes. It's all you are Tony Stark. You are Iron Man.
Right.
I am Iron Man.
All right. Actually, here's one. Is this is obviously on PlayStation VR. Is it any sort of connection to the Insomniac Spider-Man game, or is it also its own thing?
I think there's been a few pieces in it when I've been like, hang on, that's what it says in Marvel's in the Insomniac Spider-Man, which is behind me here.
All the collector stuff on Michael's shelf.
Mm-hmm.
They say that Oscorp was founded by Otto and Norman.
Right.
And they also say the same thing in this game, so I'm thinking maybe this is in the same universe, but there's been no other like linking sort of thing to it.
I don't really think I have much to like say on that itself, because specifically VR is a technology I haven't gotten into. I do think it has potential, but it's still in its baby steps for me. So from what I've seen so far, I think this could be interesting as like an experiment to see how far it can go.
It's in some ways it is an experiment in showing like free flight in VR and like maneuverability. There is a learning curve to it. When I first started flying in it, I was like in Iron Man 1, like throwing my hands all over the place to make sure I didn't fall. But whenever you get into it, you can like I started flying a lot smoother and taking corners a lot better. But it's a step backwards in that there's so many VR games that you pop in, you load once, and you're in. That's it. You can just play through it. There's probably some loading in the background. Like the Walking Dead game I've been playing, like loading is phenomenal. But in Iron Man, it's like you're flying about, you're Iron Man. It's amazing. It's a massive power trip, and then there's about 5 minutes of just headset on, arms like that for about 5 minutes, just waiting for it to load back in again.
I'm curious to see where this goes. Like, I mean, if they have VR planned for PlayStation 5 and stuff like that. And here's one, like, I think VR still has a way to go, but from what you're describing it as, I think it does perfectly fine for what it is.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think one more section to go before the night wraps up. So this is Docuseries. All right, sorry, I lost the docket halfway through, so I'm just going to see if I can pull it up again. Things love to disappear on me. In fairness, it's just been very slow, like entertainment and news week as well, so passing time for a lot of this, I think.
Well, depends on what level of news we're talking about. Is it exclusively movies and games?
Here's the thing, I've actually come to realize this because I've been looking back through the edits and stuff like this. I think we talk much more about video games than anything else.
Yeah.
It's my expertise.
That was the course. That was what it was about.
Oh yeah. Oh shit. That's a good point. Maybe I wasted money.
Who knows? A mixture of everything, I think, is solid enough. All right, good. I got it up. So, talks about next-gen games potentially being more expensive.
I beg your pardon.
This comes from not anyone specifically, but they're showing this for a lot of the distributors, is that the AAA games for next generation are potentially going up in price. Like, to give an example, there's a diagram that went up for NBA 21K, I think, because that's going to be the one for this year. And they show the current ones, you know, Xbox One, PlayStation 4 on the side, the normal edition and the special edition. They would be maybe around 50-ish pounds, 55 euros, stuff like that. And then on the right, they show the next gen versions of that. And obviously this could depend, this could all be up in the air, but essentially it's another 10 pounds, euros, dollars that gets added onto that. And they do describe how you can still transfer your saves over and stuff like that, all your credits, it still counts. But yeah, I'm really curious to see if this is actually going forward.
Saying that you're able to put older games into the new device.
Well, I think it's specifically ones that have cross-gen ports. So
Yeah.
I think I picked NBA as an example because I think it had the most information on it.
Yeah,
But-
so does that then mean then that, say, if you got the new console and you wanted to get a new game and it was being made for both the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5, you would get it for the PlayStation 4 because it's cheaper and put it in, but because it's cross-compatible.
that's one of the big questions I have with it as well, especially because outside of it not being made clear in some cases, there's also the update of the sort of boxes and logos and how they handle it. Like, PlayStation, I think, have done a solid enough because they've switched the banner from blue to yellow. Or no, actually, sorry, no, blue to white. They showed that for the Miles Morales Spider-Man spinoff they're doing. I think that was a solid enough showcase to say, yes, this is what the box looks like. Xbox, I don't have a clue because it literally just is the same box, but this time they put a little black sticker that says like Xbox One or Xbox Series X compatible. All right, look, I'm no expert in how to do Photoshop or compile these things together. Like, I do my best with the logos and stuff, but you need to have a better way to differentiate your different generations of products. Like, look at PlayStation, for example. Like, remember the PS1 boxes? It's not even just like the logo on the side that changes. It's the fact like it was literally only the size of a disc. And then when you went to PlayStation 2, it was DVD sized. And then, you know, Blu-ray condensed, and you had all the changes in logos and aesthetic changes throughout. And yeah, this generation is getting off to a really strange start. And the idea that it could potentially cost more has me really concerned. And who knows, maybe this is just a potential view for the time being because of the economy taking a hit due to all that's been going on right now. Like,
if we're to be realistic, a lot of companies at the minute are bringing out new technology, like consoles and mobile devices and stuff like that. Apple is a prime example of that. They're planning for their next generation of iPhone, which I have the new one, you're welcome. For their next generation of Apple, they are planning on removing the charging port for it, right? Which sounds, yeah, they're planning on moving it, apparently.
Oh, moving it. Sorry, I thought you said it's gone. But how do we charge?
Yeah, they're removing it.
Wirelessly?
So is this like, yeah, is it wireless charging?
Hold on. They would then be reducing the pricing of it for like £400. They would be reducing it for like £400 worth for the charging port because it would be taking up excess amount of room, which means you would be allowed for more battery, right? Okay. But the issue with that is that to pay for the things, so this current device that I have here, which is the 11 Pro, there is no earphone jack. You use your charging port and as both the charging and for your earphones, right?
Okay.
Move that, it means that you're going to have to buy AirPods and you're going to have to buy a wireless charger. Now, both of those, as an Apple exclusive, cost a minimum of £100. Minimum, and that's just for the charger. If you want to get the expert one, you're talking like £180, which would charge your phone and your Apple Watch. That's assuming if you have that, and your AirPods as well. All of those come at an extra cost. So realistically, you might be saving money on your phone, but you're also going to have to buy X amount of more things that are easily broken, more so than the phone itself. So the AirPods that I have at the minute they're in great condition, but it doesn't mean to say that if somebody offered me a brand new pair, I wouldn't say no to it because they're not pick up dirt easily, those AirPods. Therefore, you might want to replace them every year or so because of how dirty they get. But
all right, so I think it is something to keep in mind for just new technology just means higher prices. I do hope there's a better confirmation of it in the future, or when it does eventually come out. Just means I'm gonna have to start saving up more. Gen potentially announced as the next Smash Bros character. I'm not overly familiar with him. I think he comes from Super Mario RPG.
What is this dude?
Super Smash Bros. They've done a new Fighters Pass and they're releasing new characters as it goes along. The last one they did was Min Min from ARMS. Stop trying to make ARMS a thing, Nintendo. It's not going to be a thing. I think, it has its fans. If someone's up for it, good for them. But I was thinking if they were going to do another Mario one, maybe make it Paper Mario themed, because with a new one coming out, I think it might have been a more convenient sort of plug-in for just getting attention. I think the only other thing that comes from it is that this more than likely is after this Fighter Pass is done, because I think there's like 5 more steps of it to go. That's going to be the last for Ultimate. If I've got any Potential ones I'd like to see in the future. I'd like either Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil, or and maybe this is just a personal one that they should have included right from the start. Waluigi. Where is he, people? Where is my purple boy? I need him in Smash.
If you took that and you melted that the wrong way, that could have been very weird. Where is my purple boy? I need him in Smash.
I need him to smash.
I need to smash the
Henry
purple
Cavill
boy.
builds a PC, and it's apparently the thing people are into.
Oh, daddy.
This is Cavill.
He had to take his headset microphone right up to his lips and just utter those words.
Is that
Because of
Papa
course
Cavill?
you'd be into that.
It's Papa Cavill, yeah.
Papa Cavill.
Daddy
I
Garrett.
just think Michael just wants to be carried into that room to see the man himself just build the PC.
I need to try something.
Good old Clark Kent himself.
No, I think the thing with that video is that he's having fun doing it, but it also is mundane just setting it up, but it's the idea that he's just doing it and people are just like, oh my god, this is incredible, this is the thing we need.
He's actually a really big gamer, Henry Cavill.
Yeah, he was so passionate about a lot of it. I think that was, you can see that in a lot of behind the scenes for Witcher. His passion for that series was what got him the role, because he was so into knowing stuff about the characters and the lore and stuff. I forgot to say this the last few times, but we do have an email. talkingcrapabout@gmail.com. You can send us a question, whatever you like. Not safe for work material goes to Peter, me and Michael, standard stuff.
Exactly.
Yes, the man that calls Henry Cavill daddy is here for standard stuff.
Send your Henry Cavill, Michael Yowie fan art to talkingcrapabout@gmail.com.
Let's not do that. That's just weird.
You can send anything, Michael, but you can send anything you want.
Yes, you can find some links to our pages in the description below. I think that'll wrap us up for today. Peter, any last words for the listener?
The fact that you are both leaning in hurts me. Do you know what else hurts me? Michael's bracing for this.
Yeah, I don't know. You just have
Go on.
random bursts of inspiration.
Random bursts of inspiration, let me think.
We have none. Good night. Take care.